Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 123.
On Now You Know.
Tesla Time News, as always, is sponsored by our amazing, wonderful, mind-bogglingly awesome Patreons on Patreon. You guys rock. This show does not happen without them.
True. And it's sponsored by our friends at the solar-powered hotel in Schaumburg, Illinois, the Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott. And I have been there. I strongly, highly recommend that if you're in the Chicago area, you stay there because it is solar-powered and it has EV charging. Reminder to everyone that Jesse and I will be live streaming on January 19th, and if you're a Patreon at the $8 perk level, you'll be able to join us. All right, so Elon tweeted this out. Starting on Monday, today, Tesla will no longer be taking orders for the 75 kilowatt hour version of the Model S and X. If you'd like that version, please order by Sunday night. Well, that night is past. Lonely Guy said,
Is Model S and X being phased out over the next 2 years?
Elon said, definitely not. So this means that the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack is the only battery pack now available for the Model S and X.
I see. So the only choice you have is between like performance and not performance. There's no battery size difference.
No. And
interesting.
A lot of conjecture going on around the internet. What does this mean? Is there going to be a refresh? Is there going to be new batteries in it? First thing I do want to point out is that the Model S price just now went from $76,000 as the lowest price you could get to $94,000 as the lowest price you can get. And for Model X, it went from $82,000 to $97,000. That is something that is totally clear. So now if you put that into the equation, I think we are now seeing why he did this.
So a lot of people are saying that it's because of the refresh. Do you think that that's the reason why?
No.
Okay. And because it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make too much sense. Like, this doesn't seem to correlate with a refresh.
No.
I think that there might be one coming.
Sure.
But this has nothing to do with it.
I don't think so.
So I think it really comes down to profit. I think that it comes down to profit margins. Right now, or yesterday, you could have bought a Model S for $76,000, or you could have bought a Performance Model 3 for $73,000.
Right.
Roughly the same price, which means that you're kind of split, right? Now, there is no option. It has now been differentiated by quite a bit of money. So what I think now is, instead of you, if you're in that bracket, which I think that there are a lot of Tesla potential buyers who are in that bracket of like, do I want the Model S or do I want a Performance Model 3, who are now going to be pushed towards the Model 3. And what that means is Tesla's going to be making a higher margin off of that sale, because I think that this precludes a lot of people from buying the lower end Model S. And I think that the lower end Model S does not make as much profit as a Performance Model 3.
I also think that they're trying to free up a line at the Fremont factory for Model 3. And I think that if you push this price up, you're going to get lower sales, higher margins, like you said, and you'll free up a line that you can be pumping out more Model 3s.
I think that this is probably one of the ways that they're actually going to be able to get to the $35,000 Model 3.
Yep.
It sounds counterintuitive. You know, you're probably losing sales because now the people who wanted to buy that cheap Model S might be completely turned off. But I think that, again, more people will now have to tend towards the Performance Model 3, which is an amazing car. So they'll be quite happy instead of going for that 75D. Now, Tesla doesn't have to produce the 75 kilowatt hour battery pack for the Model S or X. Now, it does make the Model X more expensive. Where there is no true alternative, I think it could potentially push people more over towards the I-Pace and other competitors coming up, but again, they're making a larger profit margin on the more expensive Model X's.
Yeah, I mean, it's pushed those two cars into the true luxury category. And so I think this was a differentiation that Tesla wanted to do, just for what you said. They need to free up the line, they need to make more profit margin, and they need to put out more Model 3s.
Absolutely. And I think that this is all
Because
part of it.
keep in mind, China and Europe are chomping at the bit for Model 3s, and there's no other factories at the moment doing that. So they need Fremont's all they got at the moment.
Right.
Everybody's talking about this right now. We've got Hyperchange, Galley's talking about it in his channel. We've got Rich Rebuilds talking about it. What are they talking about?
Tesla's customer service.
Yeah. It's the Achilles heel, as Galley puts it, of Tesla right now. And we didn't want to ignore this story because it's true. We're Tesla fanboys. We love Tesla. But there's nothing we hate more than bad communication from a company or a company that doesn't apologize when they've made a mistake. And all companies make mistakes. So we just wanted to talk about what are the mistakes that Tesla is making. Like, tell me about what Rich Rebuilds was talking about for those people who haven't been following his story.
So he ordered a Model X, and it's been almost 2 months, and he hasn't gotten it yet.
Yeah, this was a used Model X.
Right.
And he's had, it's not just that he hasn't gotten it. It's not like they were just delayed for 2 months. It's that he's gotten emails that said like, oh, it'll be ready, and then it wasn't ready. And in fact, just recently, he went all the way down to the Dedham store where they said, well, your car's not ready, but we have a loaner for you, a Model S loaner.
Right.
He went there to get his loaner. He took him like 2 trains and a car to get there.
Right.
And then
No loaner.
No loaner. This is perfect example of what we're talking about, is that they screwed up on communication and follow through so many times on things that shouldn't be that hard. To give a guy a loaner car shouldn't be that hard.
Right. I think that Tesla grew very, very quickly. I think for quite a while, everything was kind of nice and relaxed. You know, people would come in looking for a Model S and they would be able to go, okay, here's the Model S, blah, 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 whatever. And now they're delivering, you know, dozens of Model 3s out of every location every day. So the amount of growth that had to happen in terms of hiring was explosive, because they're not just having to deal with more customers, they have to deal with more cars. So they're getting more deliveries of cars. They have to move all the cars. You need people to move the cars. It's no longer like, don't worry, Mr. Model S driver, sir. I'll go get your Model S right now. That was pretty easy. I mean, there weren't that many Model S and X drivers. Now you've practically doubled the number of Tesla customers within a very short period of time. And I think that they just were not ready for it.
No. And they also, I think, have a problem in that they've got these middle-level managers who, a lot of them came from companies, let's say the service industry, like the hotel service industry, where you're selling a different service. You've got a hotel with 450 stationary rooms. You just move people around in that building. You're not dealing with having to move cars around the country and all the problems associated with cars. So when problems came up, they weren't able to handle how that actually works. When there's a problem, you should first admit you have a problem. Tell your customer what the problem is. Don't hide it under silly words. You know, this is not a customer-facing solution and blah, blah, blah. Tell them, we screwed up, sir. I'm so sorry. I think if you did that, most people would be fine with it, because I think that we should be clear here. What we're hearing from a lot of people is that things like they'll show up to get their car, the car's not ready to be picked up, there's no explanation why, and so hours and hours go by where the person's left in limbo, like they've been dropped off, they have no car now, they don't know what to do, and no one will tell them anything. A lot of people try and email their service rep and don't get emailed back. What Tesla did a while ago was they were being so inundated with calls to the service centers that they went to a central location. So you would call your local service center, but you would get somebody in Nevada.
Right.
And the problem was that person in Nevada, first of all, didn't pick up the phone usually for 45 minutes or an hour. And when they finally did, they had no information for you.
It didn't solve the problem by, taking it away from the service center. I mean, that could have worked had they had enough representatives able to answer your call.
With the answers, yeah.
But it would sometimes take, 45 minutes to an hour to actually get someone on the phone. And then when you did, you had someone who was, half a world away trying to answer questions about what's going on at your location. And then they would give you some answer, and then you'd say thank you, and you'd hang up the phone. And that would not carry across to your, service station or where you're going to pick up your car.
Now, on the factory floor, Elon could actually go to the factory floor, talk to some people, listen to their problems, and then come up with a solution.
Right.
Here, you have the entire world, right? You're delivering cars all over the world. And so Elon is spread too thin. He can't do it. I suggest that either Elon disguise himself and travel to every single service center and pretend to buy a car, or hire yourself some secret shoppers, some people that you really trust who only speak directly to you.
Right.
And have them go through this problem so that they can report to you what the problem was, and then fire some people.
Right. And that's at every service center. Like, that's at every showroom, everywhere where you can pick up a car.
And the reason we're saying this is, I don't think Elon's getting the problems. I think the people at middle management are not relaying to him that there have been problems. They're minimizing them because they know that if they were, they'd get fired.
Right.
Because the thing is, if I have a problem getting my car, I can't text Elon. I mean, I can tweet at him, but there's millions of people tweeting at him. And I can't talk to the middle level managers. I can't talk to anyone basically above the people at the local store.
Right, and those people are not the problem. Like,
No.
I'm not trying to suggest that the people at, local showrooms and service centers are the problem. Generally, there's a problem that is, 1 or 2 levels above them that they can't fix, that they are trying. They keep telling like, oh, we can't do this because we need this done, and it's not getting done.
Right.
Those are the people that you need to go after.
And I think that Elon should do this. Go to a middle level manager when he knows there's a problem and say, is there a problem? And if they say, nope, fire them. As soon as they say, yes, Elon, here's the problem and here's how to fix it, move that person up.
Right.
But I think that's not what's going on at Tesla right now. I think if you admit you have a problem, you're fired.
Right.
And that's not how you make something fix.
Right.
You just get people that lie to you.
Right. And the worst part about this is that it's creating people who want to get a car. They want to get in a Model 3. They're excited. They want to buy a used Model X. And they're getting really, really upset because, there's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through in order to buy a car. And, it's already a pain. If you've ever gone to any car dealership, you know what a pain buying a car is. You're now multiplying that with the fact that you can't actually talk to someone and get a straight answer out of them.
Right.
And that person, when you go to pick up your car, that person is even known about,
Right.
But with the other person. That's kind of the level of it. And I think that, it's some sort of system. They have some system that is so flawed.
Yep.
I don't know if it's some kind of Salesforce system that's supposed to, segregate different types of people, like, oh, I'm just in charge of letting you know that there's a delivery,
Right.
or I'm just here to schedule.
Right.
Each person kind of needs their own representative who oversees everything.
You should have a customer service person who follows you through the entire process. That's how I believe it should be.
Even with this problem that we've identified, there's still an amazing thing. So Experian did a survey, and they just found that Tesla has the highest level of customer loyalty.
Yeah.
So if someone has bought a Tesla, there's an 80.5% chance that they will buy or lease another Tesla when they return to the market.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 Tesla owners will return to Tesla. Now, that's amazing because EV owners are normally super loyal. Experian found that 62% of EV owners are loyal to EVs.
Right.
But let's put this in perspective. Subaru, which had the highest loyalty rating at 72.1%, or Ford at 72%, Tesla's coming in at 80.5%.
Right. It blows them out of the water, even with their customer service problems, which means that if Tesla can solve their customer service problems, I can quite easily tell you that customer loyalty will go up from there. And this, I want to get back to, proves how amazing the cars are, right? How amazing the product is.
Yeah.
So amazing that even if you had a crappy delivery experience or service experience, you still love the car so much that you're not going to go buy anything else.
Right. So Tesla just reported their Q4 2018 safety report. This is only the second time that they've reported the numbers. You remember that in Q3, they reported this accident rate. And so now in Q4, they've reported that there's 1 accident per 2.9 million miles with autopilot on, and 1 accident per 1.58 million miles with autopilot not on. Now,
that's worse. It's been getting worse. They must have changed something. They must have made it worse.
Well, that's what most people are reporting.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I want to take into account. Each of these quarters, the U.S. Department of Transportation also releases their accident rate. So in Q3, it was 1 accident per 492,000 miles driven. And in Q4, it was 1 accident per 436,000 miles driven.
So it also got worse.
Yeah.
So why would that happen?
Well, so Q3 is July, August, September.
Okay, so it's nice.
Very bright, warm months.
Mm-hmm.
And Q4 is October, November, December,
Right.
which in the United States, for many states, is icy, snowy, dark. So if you then take that into account and run the numbers, which we did, you will see here that the Q3 safeness rating is 6.78 times safer with autopilot on and 3.9 times safer without it on.
Mm-hmm.
That's very close to the numbers you see in Q4, which is 6.67 times safer with autopilot on and 3.62 times safer without it on. Basically, I would argue, I mean, we only have 2 data sets here, but I would argue that's probably within the statistical realm. So basically, you're seeing that it's reaffirming what Tesla told you the first quarter, and I think we're going to see it reaffirm it as we go on. Now, there has been a change. Q4, you have a lot more Model 3s on the road, and so it could be that Model 3 drivers are slightly more accident prone.
You paid a lot less for your car. Maybe you don't care as much about it. But I mean, it does make a lot of sense, having it be darker, especially at rush hour. And I mean, I notice that a lot. You're driving at dawn and at dusk, both to and from work. That's just a recipe for disaster.
But here's the big takeaway. Teslas are far safer, not like 1 or 2%. We're talking 3 to 6 times safer.
Right. And I think one of the biggest factors in that is even if you don't buy autopilot, like I don't have autopilot on my car.
I'm sorry.
You've
lost it.
But it still has collision detection, warning, and automatic emergency braking.
Right.
Both of which I've experienced. Okay, so I was, driving into Boston. I had to get onto Sturrow Drive from 93. Anyone who lives in Boston knows that that's a small nightmare. Guy in front of me slams on his brakes because he decides he needs to get over 4 lanes. I'm busy looking at which lane I'm supposed to be in. I hear a beep, 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 and I slam on the brakes, and I stop a full 1.5 car lengths before the car who's stopped dead on the highway. Completely wouldn't have seen it in time.
Wow.
And I'm so far behind him now that I'm able to, maybe go around him. I can do whatever I want. It's not like I almost hit him. Very far away. I'm like, oh my God, this car just saved me from an accident.
Right. That could have been the accident.
And I was going fast too, I was going 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So that could have been
Yeah.
a serious accident. That is happening on a daily basis. I know for a fact. That is the reason why it is so above the average.
So here's an update for the Summon feature. Ryan McCaffrey tweeted at Elon, any update on the Summon Plus, i.e. my pet Tesla that follows me around the parking lot while we're on the subject? Elon said,
going through final validation and regulatory approval, probably released to early access program owners in a few weeks. It's trippy.
Fred Lambert said, does that include remote control mode? Elon said,
getting some regulatory pushback may not be available in all regions.
So let's just remember that in October, Elon said that Summon update would happen in 6 weeks. So that's, again, Elon time. It didn't really happen. And he said that car to drive to your phone location and follow you like a pet if you hold down Summon button on Tesla app. So I guess this leads me to ask a couple questions. Do we need this? I mean, it has Summon now, which will summon it in and out of a parking space or your garage, which I find to be very useful. But what we're talking about now sounds to me like more of a trick.
A trick?
Yeah, like something to show off to your friends or put on a YouTube video of like, watch this, my car will follow me around the parking lot.
Well, I mean...
Like, why do you need that?
Well, it depends on how it works. I mean, there's the follow like a pet, seems a little gimmicky to me, but then there's the come to you from a parking lot.
That I like.
That I like because, it's pouring rain or whatever, and your car can now come to the entrance of the theater or whatever, whatever you're leaving. But I don't know how that would actually work because I know that it has cameras, so it can see all around it, determine obstacles.
Would that mean that on your phone you're seeing like a drone that you're seeing what the car sees and you're driving it on your phone?
That's the remote control mode, the thing that he's getting pushback for. What he's not getting pushback for is the pet mode. So I don't know if it's kind of like a leash, kind of like you have your car on a leash and you can just kind of walk along. I mean...
But again, if you're using your rain example, I want to be in the theater or in my house and have the car meet me at the door.
Right. So it's either going to be that the car will be able to, on its own, exit the parking space and drive to you using, I'm guessing, GPS.
And then my other question comes, regulatory approval. I understand on public roads you need regulatory approval, but wouldn't this usually be in a private parking lot? Do you still need regulatory approval in a private, quote, I mean, it's private, but yet it's public.
It wouldn't be your parking lot necessarily. It could be, as the theater example, could be the theater's parking lot or whatever.
So then that's why it needs regulatory approval?
I'm guessing so. And yeah, that we don't have enough details to really know what the features are going to be. If it's drive to you from a parking lot to you, that's cool. If it's follow you like a pet, I would imagine that it relies on the Bluetooth to know that you're within the range of it.
It's going to be interesting to see.
It's going to be really interesting to see.
So there's a great article this week by Steve Hanley at Clean Technica. It reports that the Attorney Generals of New York and Massachusetts issued demands, or what we could basically call subpoenas, to ExxonMobil in April of 2016. And what were they demanding?
They were asked to hand over documents showing what they knew about claims that the company was aware of the risks of global warming from carbon emissions as far back as the 80s, but they've gone to extraordinary lengths to conceal this information.
Right. And so Exxon said Massachusetts has no jurisdiction. Basically, you can't tell us what to do because you're just a state. It went to the Massachusetts Supreme Court, and they ruled in April of 2018 that Massachusetts does have the right to get those documents. So what did ExxonMobil do?
So Exxon appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. So, there's always a bigger court until you get to the Supreme Court. And on January 7th, the court did not take up the case, which means that the Massachusetts ruling stands. Exxon must now hand over all documents.
So the Attorney General of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, tweeted, "Today's SCOTUS victory clears the way for our office to investigate Exxon's conduct towards consumers and investors. The public deserves answers from this company about what it knew about the impacts of burning fossil fuels and when."
So this is going to make some really big news, because it would be one thing if they were like, "Oh, of course, Massachusetts, here are our documents." And they were like 5, and they were like, "We don't know anything about global warming." But they didn't do that. Of course they didn't do that. They said, "We don't have to tell you anything." Right. We don't have to tell you it. It's like, it's like a kid when his mom is like, "Let me see what's up with your room." And you're like, "No, don't, you can't come in. Don't come in. You can't see this. Don't. There's nothing to see."
So this is what it's going to be like. The kid, instead of opening the door and letting us in, is going to open the door a little bit, grab something like a sock, and hand it to Massachusetts. Then Massachusetts is going to go, "Court, more." He's going to open the door again, pull out like a sneaker. So it's going to be slow. It's going to trickle out.
ExxonMobil right now, I think they have to be sitting in board meetings right now and saying, what are we going to do? So there's a couple options I think that they have. They can either just...
Flamethrower.
That would be the most illegal option. But they can either truck all the documents over and just be like, "Here you go." In which case, obviously, the district attorney of Massachusetts would have all of the evidence against them right away. Mm-hmm. Or they can fight and be like, "Oh, fine, we'll release this one document, but we're not releasing the rest." And then it's like, "We have the legal right to do so, please," So they could keep fighting. I think that there's... It's a lose-lose situation. You're either coming out with stories every month or week or whatever of like a new document that comes to light that proves how awful ExxonMobil is.
I think they're going to choose that option, the slow option, because time is the only thing they've got left. If they can slow this down to a few years, they get a few more years of profiting. If everything comes out at once... Look, we're talking since the 80s. Mm-hmm. You're going to hear some horrible stories.
Right.
I bet. When that comes out, I don't know. Be ready for the deluge of stories.
So, I mean, well, what is the repercussions that can come of this? I mean, do you think that there's...
Jail.
You think...
big fines.
So you think
companies going out of business? I mean, do you remember what happened to the tobacco industry?
Okay, so you're thinking it's going to be that level of...
Yeah.
So it's this...
Do you remember? Well, so just remember with the tobacco industry, same exact thing happened. We're not telling you anything. Lawsuits. We finally got information. We found out that they knew stuff. And then where are the tobacco companies today?
But, I mean, this isn't a consumer good, right? Like, people rely on this to get to work every day.
Right.
Not like cigarettes where quitting cigarettes sucks. I'm not going to downplay it.
But we've talked about how we're just on the cusp of a EV disruption and revolution that is going to just take off. So as oil goes down and EV goes up, people aren't going to be relying on oil to get to work every day as much.
I suppose you're right. And I mean, this definitely creates a negative sentiment because you're actually having a court that it actually comes out with proof that they knew that it was bad for the environment, which is twofold. It is... One, admitting, the oil industry finally admitting that climate change is real, that it's bad, and that they had something to do with it, and that they knew about it. Yep. So, I mean, I think that will take some of the ardent supporters for, "I don't believe in climate change," and convert some of them. And you're also just going to be losing faith in the average consumer. So when they see an ExxonMobil station, they're going to be like, they're just going to hate buying gas.
I
hope.
And as they go down in value, they lose their lobbying support for being able to keep up this charade with politicians and the American public. All right, so let's go on to some fun news here. Elon tweeted last week, Starship test flight rocket just finished assembly at the SpaceX Texas launch site. This is an actual picture, not a rendering. This is for suborbital VTOL tests. Orbital version is taller, has thicker skins, won't wrinkle, and a smoothly curving nose section. Okay, so this picture we're seeing here, it has some wrinkles and stuff like that. Is this going to space? What is this?
So this is kind of like it's a test hopper.
Oh, like we talked about last week.
What we talked about last week, basically when they were, before they built the Falcon 9, they had what was called the Grasshopper, which was just this cylinder full of rocket fuel, the same rocket configuration as the Falcon 9. Wasn't built for going to space. It was just built for testing up and down.
So we see a little astronaut person at the bottom of this to give you some scale. This is different than the first Grasshopper test. Why?
So this is a lot bigger.
Oh, okay.
9-meter diameter rocket, so it's way larger. Obviously, it's going to have different engines, so they need to test through all of this different stuff to make sure that it works.
So, I mean, there's a great video from Everyday Astronaut that you should go check out, which gives you more information. And the hopper tests for this are supposedly going to take place in March and April, and the rocket tests are expected next month.
Wow.
All right, what are we looking at here, Jesse? This is CES 2019, right? Over in Las Vegas. Is this a Harley Davidson?
This is a Harley Davidson. This is the Harley Davidson Live Wire. It is an electric motorcycle.
Wow.
So
they did it.
Yeah, something that I thought we've
been reporting on this for a while.
Right. I kind of didn't expect this from Harley Davidson. You think of Harley Davidson, you think of Harley Davidson riders. You don't necessarily think of electric motorcycle.
You think of
right. It's usually the loudest thing on the road. And now they finally
and now
made
at a red
something.
light, it's going to be.
It will be on sale in the fall for $30,000. It'll have DC fast charging, so 80% in 40 minutes. It doesn't charge at level 2s.
Whoa.
And
slow down there.
What?
So it charges it's at DC fast.
Yep.
Why wouldn't it charge at level 2?
Basically, they put on the the onboard charger for a DC charging unit. I guess they didn't have room for the level 2 charging option.
So if you charge it at home, what will you be able to charge it at? Because you won't have a DC fast charger at home.
Right. You'd be able to charge it basically level 1 speeds.
Oh, that's dumb. That's not understanding how the real world works, I think.
Right. There are not that many DC charging stations in the world to make your life easier. Like, yes, there are some that are at malls and there's some that are at grocery stores. Usually, again, it's just one stall for one car, or in this case, motorcycle. And they're not spaced out that great. No. So it's not like you're going to be able to go on a Harley Davidson road trip.
Well, let's talk about range. What can this thing do? Can this go cross country? Like what?
110 miles of urban range.
What is urban range?
That is, lower speeds and stuff like that.
Oh, so it's even less range if you go down the highway?
Yeah, I think so. It has a 0 to 60 of 3.5 seconds. So that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
If you're buying a motorcycle and you're going to spend $30,000, you're probably going to go for a Ducati. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to spend a lot of money and you want something that can accelerate a lot, you're going to go for a Ducati, which has a higher acceleration, longer range. Obviously, it's not electric, but I think that if you were going to be spending this much and you wanted a motorcycle that was electric, you'd go for the Zero. Zero already has this range.
Right.
It's
a lot cheaper.
Like
half the price.
And it can charge at level 2 charging stations. It just seems like a no-brainer.
Now, what are these other two? That's a dirt bike and a moped?
Harley also came out with concepts for a dirt bike and this moped.
What are the specs on those?
No specs. We know absolutely nothing about them. They're both concepts. Electric. I don't think Harley Davidson makes many dirt bikes, and I don't think they make too many mopeds. That's not to say that they can't do them, but I don't know what Harley rider is going to get this moped, this 30-mile-an-hour moped, and I don't even know where you really supposed to drive it. Like, is this supposed to replace a bicycle? Is this supposed to be an around the city kind of thing? Like, I think that they're probably trying to go for a new demographic, some kind of a young demographic, but I don't want to go to a Harley Davidson dealership. So another thing they said is that at least one Harley Davidson dealership per state,
Okay.
they're going to have a DC fast charger and a representative that knows a little bit about the live wire.
Okay, this is the typical mistake that these companies make. They think that if we put a charger and a guy like Bob who knows about the thing, then we're all set. Guess here's what happens. You walk in to buy this new electric motorcycle, and you're like, yes, can I talk about the motorcycle? Oh, you want to speak to Bob? He's at lunch.
Right. He's not here today.
We don't know anything about it.
Right. And you're walking into a Harley Davidson dealership. So it's different than even walking into like a Nissan dealership looking for a Leaf or a GM dealership looking for a Bolt. You're walking into a Harley Davidson. It's almost diametrically opposed the kind of people that you're going to be talking to if you're buying an electric motorcycle. That's not to say anything bad about Harley Davidson riders, but in my experience, personally, I don't think that I would want to go to a Harley Davidson dealership to charge my bike.
GM announced that it will lead the charge into our electric future with its
Cadillac?
Yeah,
Cadillac
they said
brand?
Cadillac will be GM's lead electric vehicle brand and will introduce the first model from the company's all-new battery electric vehicle architecture, GM's foundation for an advanced family of profitable EVs.
Cadillac, huh?
Before we go on, let's go to Ford. Ford announced every Ford nameplate from the all-new Ford Focus onwards will include an electrified option. This includes new nameplates and new versions of existing vehicles, from Fiesta to Transit, either a mild hybrid, full hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or full battery electric option will be offered, delivering one of the most encompassing lineups of electrified options for European customers.
Oh, so it's only for Europe.
Yeah, I mean, they made a similar statement about America a while ago. Here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
Again, this is kind of like what we just talked about with Harley Davidson. Kind of clueless. Yes, they are buying into electric, so everyone's like, this is great. Did you hear them talk about electric?
Right, and I want to preface, like, that's good.
Yep.
I'm glad that they're going into electrification. I think that they're not going the smartest move.
No.
So let's talk about this for a second. Let's first talk about Cadillac.
Yep.
I'm a young person. I don't think of Cadillac a lot.
No.
It's not really a young person's kind of car. And I bring this up because I think that a lot of young people are the types of people who are looking for electric cars.
Right.
Because we're like, oh, you know what? We're actually going to feel the impacts of climate change. We're actually going to live that long.
Right. I think about a Cadillac dealer for a second. Think who's attracted to work at a Cadillac dealership. Think about what they've been selling for years and who they've been selling to. They are really good at selling big, expensive cars to older people like me. And now you're going to ask them to sell an electric car? I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to do it, and they're not going to do it well, even if they want to do it. So you go into the dealership, hey, can I try your electric Cadillac? And they're going to be like, yeah,
Listen.
It's not plugged in right now. I don't know where the guy is who plugs it in.
And you might be saying, Zach and Jesse, you guys are crazy, but we've experienced dealerships that have electric cars on offer that basically will try and steer you away from. We've been to BMW, Nissan, and
Chevy.
GM.
Yep.
So I mean, we've seen all of them.
Yep.
Basically, any dealership that, you know, unless you go to a Tesla showroom, there's no other dealership that I am aware of that you can go in and basically get the experience that you're looking for. A lot of them have absolutely no idea how they work. When I bought my Leaf, they were like, oh, do you want to spend a little bit more money to get the maintenance plan? And I was like, what's in the maintenance plan? They're like, like the exhaust system, the oil stuff, and
Carburetor.
Right, your carburetor, your cat, and everything like that. I'm like, it doesn't have a catalytic converter, doesn't have an exhaust system. They're like, oh, okay. I'm like, I don't need that. They're like, oh, okay. They don't get it. When I bought my Leaf, it was used. It already had 35,000 miles on it. I have not brought it to anywhere besides a tire place to change the tires. That's it.
No, and what Ford and GM could have done is they could have mimicked, say, Rivian, right? They could have said, we're going to come out with a pickup truck because Americans love pickups, and that's what we sell a lot of, and we're going to do an electric pickup truck that's going to blow away the market. Have they done that?
No, of course. Here's the thing. Branding your Cadillac brand towards electric vehicles is such a weird option. Just create a new brand. It's not that hard. You just say, this is a GM-backed brand.
But
it's the new electrolysis. Or no, that's a dumb name. Or the new, anything. They can come up with marketing terms. I know they can do that.
Right.
If they were smart, they would buy out Rivian. Now, I don't think that they even can buy out Rivian at the moment because I think Rivian knows that if whatever Ford or GM is offering them right now, it's going to be double in like 2 years as soon as they start selling.
And here's another reason why they can't buy it. They've got a huge debt-to-asset problem. Check out this chart here. This shows the different companies' debt-to-asset ratio. Ford is at the top there. It has a humongous amount of debt.
Right, 59%
ratio. Now, look at this blue line that's going down. Who does that belong to?
That's Tesla.
Their debt-to-asset ratio is getting great.
And they're in the right market. They don't need to chew off their own legs in order to survive. All the other car companies that you see here are companies that are selling combustion engine cars that are basically going to need to stop at some point. And they don't seem to have any plan for exiting.
Perfect analogy. They're walking around with their legs stuck in a bear trap. And instead of going, you know what, I just got to cut my leg off, they're instead going, no, there must be some way. Someone will help me. Sir, someone,
please
bear,
save
help
my...
me. So they're just wandering around the forest with their leg in a bear trap.
And they're bleeding.
And they're bleeding to death. And they're hoping that they don't have to cut their leg off. All right, it's time for the lightning round. I can sum up the 2019 CES, I think, in 2 words. Impossible Burger.
So they've come out with a new formula of lab-grown meat.
And we haven't tasted it yet. We're dying to. From what we've heard from multiple people, it tasted even more amazing than Impossible Burger 1.0.
Right, which I was impressed with.
Yeah, this could be huge.
It could, again, create a alternative for people who want to switch off of beef and not lose
Imagine if even just once a week you went to Impossible Burger 2.0 for a hamburger. That could make a huge change in your diet and in the planet.
Right.
All right, the used car market, it turns out, is another good story for Tesla. This story from Clean Technica shows that the Model 3 is one of the strongest cars in the used market. Check this out. Auto Trader, which is the largest online used car site in the U.S., has only 78 Model 3s listed. That's only 0.06% of the 140,000 Model 3s on the road.
Okay, but that's because they just came out.
All right, well, there's the 2018 Chevy Malibu, which has the same number of cars on the road, actually more, and there's over 1,000 of those. Or the 2018 Ford Focuses, which has fewer built than the Model 3, and there's almost 1,000 of those on the market. That's 0.8% of those that are on the market. That's an order of magnitude more than the Model 3.
So basically, people who buy Model 3s are more happy with them.
Yeah, they're not releasing them onto the used market.
Interesting.
As we've talked about before, in 2018, the Model 3 sales versus other luxury cars, well, take a look at this Clean Technica chart, which is showing the Model 3, which is that red band at the front.
Wow.
That's their sales in 2018. So isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even like incrementally better.
No.
It's just like
step change.
Check out this website. Our friend Mark in Australia shared this cool link with us. This is Carbon Brief. It's a website that shows all the operating, under construction, and planned coal power plants in the world. Now, what's cool is there's this slider over here. And so you can go back to like the year 2000 and you can see what the world looked like. And then you can, well, go ahead, Brent, Bobby. Go ahead, go back to the year 2000, let's say in the US, and then slide it over to current and even future. And you can see that something weird happened. There was stuff over on the West Coast that's no longer there.
Right. I mean,
coal plants are gone.
Coal plants are disappearing in the United States.
All right. Well, let's go look someplace else. Where are they going?
Let's look at Europe.
Okay.
Also disappearing.
Oh, so are they disappearing across the whole world?
Let's go to China and India.
Oh, wait a minute.
That's where they're all going.
So as coal, basically, as the industrialized countries that don't want them anymore are saying like, hey, no more coal. It's moving over to countries that can't afford, I guess, to go to anything else? Or?
Right. You can even see it moving over to Africa. So these are places that usually couldn't afford to have this sort of infrastructure. Now, basically, in order to create a market, the coal industry is just moving to places where they don't care about their air.
Wow. All right. So we've heard about the GM plants that are going bye-bye, and CEO of GM, Mary Barra, according to Electric, confirmed that GM and Tesla had conversations at an investor conference in New York, and she said, quote, Tesla is not interested in our GM workforce, represented by the UAW, so really, it's a moot point.
Tesla has said that they have no comment, and so this means a couple things.
Okay.
This means that, A, GM is shopping their factory around for buyers before it closes for good, and B, Tesla will wait to purchase it. What I'm conjecturing here is that Tesla does not want to move into a unionized factory because there's no advantage for them to move into a factory that has, all these machines and stuff in it that they don't need. They don't need engine making machines.
Right.
So they're going to wait. I'm thinking a few years to move into one of those plants.
See what we think on In Depth tomorrow. So SpaceX has reported that they're going to cut 10% of their workforce. So we did a little digging here. SpaceX has revenue of about $2.5 billion a year with a workforce of just under 7,000. So that would mean that they'd be cutting about 600 to 700 people. And if you do the math, if you assume that each person gets $100,000 a year, that would be a savings of $70 million a year. Now, that sounds weird for a company that's growing so fast, that's worth $30.5 billion.
Right.
I was like, why are they doing that?
I think that investors are looking at it and saying, looks a little fat to me.
Yeah, so wait a minute, investors, I mean, we can't buy stock in it.
Right, but there are people who can.
They're in the middle of a $500 million round of equity, and so they're selling shares in the company. They've already sold $273 million of equity, and I think what's happening is, as they're selling equity, they're hearing from possible investors, you're not that lean on the employee side, and so you got to cut back. Now, I don't know where they're going to cut back, to be honest. It seems like you need all the engineers. All right, so at CES, we did get to see some of the 2019 Leaf specs, and we wanted to share them with you. The new Leaf will have a 62 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and that's only 5 millimeters bigger than the 40 kilowatt-hour battery pack that's in the current Leaf. It'll have a 160 kilowatt motor, which is 215 horsepower, and that's 45% more power than today's motor. 226-mile estimated range, 70 kilowatt CHAdeMO charging with 100 kilowatt peak. And are we still dealing with the same kind of air-cooled battery pack? Yes, we are.
Yes.
So it's the only car pretty much out there
that doesn't have a liquid-cooled battery pack, which means that for longer trips, you are going to be trickling in the juice because the battery is going to be so hot.
They have some claims that their new battery pack has better air cooling, but I mean, we all know that air doesn't cool as well as liquid, so I don't know how they're getting to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, 0 to 60 time of 6+ seconds, so that's 13% quicker than today's. Now, we do know some prices. The Leaf 3.0 is going to start at 39,900 euros, and the LE edition is going to sell for 45,500 euros. It'll be available in Japan in a few weeks. US and Canada will happen in the spring. Europe will happen in the summer. Now, just so you know, there's been 380,000 Leafs sold so far.
But there's only been 180,000 sold in the U.S., so the federal tax credit is still available for the full $7,500 limit.
And on January 7th, there was the groundbreaking at the Lingang Shanghai Gigafactory. The Shanghai mayor, Ying Yang, was there, and Elon said, it's really impressive, the capabilities of Shanghai in building things. We think with the resources here, we can build the Shanghai Gigafactory in record time, and we're looking forward to hopefully having some initial production of the Model 3 towards the end of this year and achieving volume production next year. Here is a picture of the actual construction site stage area that they set up for the stage. Interesting tweets that came out here. On January 6th, Elon said, aiming to finish initial construction this summer, start Model 3 production end of year, and reach high volume production next year. Then on January 7th, he tweeted, Shanghai Giga production of Model 3 and Y will serve Greater China region. Shanghai Giga will produce affordable versions of the 3 and the Y for Greater China. All Model S and X and higher cost versions of the Model 3 and the Y will still be built in the US for worldwide market, including China.
I think that he is reaching a much bigger market in China than we can really even wrap our heads around because, right now they're only selling Model S's and Model X's in China, and there's been a huge tariff on those.
He talked about that they're looking for talent in China and that a young engineer could start with Tesla and actually replace Elon someday.
Right.
And these are photos from Electrek and Somehow We Lost of a huge number, over 1,000 Model 3s at the San Francisco port ready to ship to. They have European license plate holders on them. So I think they're going to Europe.
Well, and also, just in case that wasn't enough proof, you can actually take a look at the boat. We talked a couple weeks ago about the Marine Tracker.
MarineTraffic.com.
And so we are going to put a link down in the description to the boat that's carrying to the ship.
It's sailing right now. It just left San Francisco port, and it should be getting where next?
It's going to the Panama Canal. It'll be crossing the Panama Canal
on January 20th.
January 20th. Then it's going to be heading through the Atlantic to Europe. So you can actually watch your ship.
Yeah, in live time. All right, it's time for our video contributor stories. What do we got this week?
We have Sean in Canada talking about washing your car in the winter.
It's crunchy snow time and it's very cold. You've probably seen loose snowflakes and reduced range of about 40% on a lot of trips. Around here, cars are caked in salt. So it's time to wash them off. You can hand wash or use a waterless wash, but I like a conventional soft cloth car wash. Dry out the doors with a towel, and ideally put the car in a garage afterwards to dry out. If it's crazy cold, don't go to the car wash. It's not rusting at that type of really cold temperatures, and who knows what it'll do to your car. I've had garbage bags shatter in minus 40 temperatures.
I didn't know that trash bags shatter up there in Canada.
Yeah,
I thought we had it bad here in New England.
We do, but it's warm and wet here. But up there, it's just too cold to snow.
Wow. All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. We're going to be talking about which way is Tesla's stock price going, was the promo bot incident a hoax, and more. So head on over to Patreon, give us as little as $1 a month, and you get to see all those stories. All right, we're back from our Patreon bonus stories, and it's time for our Patreon shout-outs. These are people who give $5 or more a month, and they get listed in our end credits forevermore if they want to. So who do we got this week?
Thorsten Lees,
Mr. Super Awesome World Saver from the Giant Space Lizard,
Moses Izuerta,
Michael Young,
Doug Horseman,
Chuck Betlak,
Michael Rao,
John Martin,
Matthew Klein,
Ann N. Southard,
Rick Mason,
Julian Bonk,
Kevin Albilak,
Eric Anderson,
and Peter McMillan.
Thank you, guys. Super awesome Patreon community.
Yeah,
We're
couldn't
so
do
excited.
it without you guys.
All right, it's time for Elon's tweets of the week. The first one here is Elon said the new Roadster will actually do something like this. What? That's a flying car.
Yeah, I don't necessarily.
All right, wait. So Marquise Brownlee said, the thing is, I feel like you're not joking. And Elon said, I'm not. We'll use SpaceX cold gas thruster system with ultra high pressure air in a composite overwrap pressure vessel in place of the 2 rear seats.
Right. So, I mean, we've heard about this before. The SpaceX package is going to have a high pressure air tank
And 10 thrusters.
and 10 thrusters.
Now, one of our awesome newsroom people has pointed out, she's an engineer, and she's pointed out that instead of what we kind of typically think, which would be that maybe it would just thrust backwards or thrust down, that it might create a negative air pressure under the car to suck the car to the road to allow it to have better grip.
Right. So it's kind of using Bernoulli's principle of a faster flowing fluid has a lower pressure than slower flowing fluid.
Right.
So basically, if you run really fast air underneath the car, it'll suck it down onto the road. So kind of like if you blow between two empty 2-liter bottles, how they'll come together, which is sort of unintuitive.
Right.
The same idea here.
So that, for a long time, I was like, she's brilliant. That must be it. But this almost flips that because it seems to be saying that it's going to make the car levitate.
I can understand the Bernoulli thing, right? Because then you're pulling the car down to the ground. You have an insane amount of torque. Normally, you would be doing a burnout,
Right?
Because you're not moving forward.
Right.
Suddenly, you have all this downforce at 0 miles an hour.
Right.
But now having it hover, that's different. It would be interesting. It would be like the only hypercar that could like hop curbs. But
I do not want to do that.
I'm skeptical. I here's what I feel like it is. I feel like maybe it's the side thruster things,
Okay.
right? Which means that you don't have to have as much downforce, which means that your suspension could be a little bit looser. Because if we're talking about a lot of downforce, we're talking about a Formula One style suspension, which is some members like don't even have any springs. It's just you're flexing the actual suspension arm of the car, which does not lend itself to a comfortable ride.
Okay.
Not that I was expecting a Cadillac smooth ride or whatever in a hypercar, but maybe you can get away with a little bit nicer suspension with sideways blowing thrusters.
You still haven't explained the levitation.
So my thought is maybe you can put it into hover mode. Either the things kind of go down like a Harrier jet, or you stick on like redirectors that would make it have a hover mode. I don't know. I can't. Here's the cool part, though. I don't need to know. I don't need to be able to figure it out because it'll just come out, and then we'll know.
Yeah.
That's kind of the fun part because usually, as an engineer, the thing won't happen unless I figure out how it's going to happen.
No, I get it.
But the nice thing here is that
and I mean, we are getting the SpaceX option package, right? So we're
I think almost assuredly, unless it's $1 billion.
Fred Lambert from Electric tweeted out to Elon. He said, Elon, suggestion. Screen render should show lane in red when vehicle in the blind spot, even when not autopilot. It would act as a blind spot alert alternative, Elon said.
good idea. Now, right now, you don't have to be an autopilot, but if you put on your blinker and there's someone in your blind spot, it'll show a red line down the side. But I kind of agree to have
An early warning kind of.
Yeah, like before you even put on your blinker, you can see. Because, I mean, most cars have the in wing mirror kind of lights that show that you can't pass.
Community mail time. All right, it's time for community mail time. We got our friend Pascal in France. He just ordered his Model 3 and he ordered full self-driving, even though it's not available yet. And here's why. He said, "We are all expecting to discover how the Tesla network will work, aren't we? Even if it will just be a first step forward in that direction." So if you try and order full self-driving right now, first of all, it's off menu, so you have to like call specially. And when you do, they kind of try and talk you out of it because they're like, even if we can make this happen, it may not be regulatorily allowed for quite some time. So he went ahead and did it. It's a very small minority of people, I'm one of them, who are asking for it, but it could be years before we get to use it.
Right.
All right, the egg race. Remember, Jesse, we were actually asked if we wanted to drive the Model X in this egg race. It was between a Citroën 2CV and the Mahari. They were traveling 1,000 miles from the UK to the south of France, and they each had to carry a basket of eggs. Had to get there in one piece. And, well, you'll have to watch to see the video to see who won it.
But it turns out that we really should have taken them up on the offer to drive the Model X.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
All right, our friend Maverick shared this photo of a Model 3 in South Korea, of all places, on the Osan Air Base. Wow. Maverick tells me that Korea is 220 volts with 60 hertz, so I wondered if this US version could supercharge.
220, 60 volts is...
It should work.
I mean, that's what we have in the United States.
Yeah, maybe it works. I don't know. And so we talked about Blastar. Remember, that's the program that Elon wrote when he was 12 years old. It's a cool game. Well, now our friend Fred has written a version of Blastar for the web browser of the Model 3, so now we can all play Blastar while we're parked in Teslas. It's actually a lot more fun than it appears. So you go to moretesla.com, which, remember, that's the place where you go if you have any ideas about how to make Teslas better. And we'll put the link down below where you can go so you can get your version so you can play it right on the browser in your Model 3. And our friend Remy sent us this sticker. It's a bumper sticker that was issued in 1988 from the French Association for the Prevention of Atmospheric Pollution, the Ministry of the Environment. And it says, "Well-tuned, my ICE car does not pollute."
That's a load of crap, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, as Remy says, it shows the big oil misinformation comes a long way. I was quite impressed that already in 1988 they had to make such stickers so that people are assured about pollution. All right, it's time for our Patreon viewer question of the week. Mary Fleming Kowalski said, "Why is regenerative braking not always active? I understand that if the car were at 90% charge, it isn't necessary, but we don't usually charge beyond 70%, so I would like to have regenerative braking and one-pedal driving that allows all the time."
So this is an interesting point.
And this explain why you don't always get it.
So it's either because you've charged the battery to full and the battery can't accept any more energy back, or because the battery is so cold that it can't safely accept energy back into it.
Right.
So this happened to me this morning. I went outside. It's freaking 12 degrees outside. Super cold. And my car battery is so cold that I can't use regen braking, which means that when I let off the accelerator pedal, I'm just coasting.
You have to step on the brake?
You have to step on the brake, actually use the brake pads, which got me thinking. This question especially got me thinking, why couldn't you have different paths for regen braking to go through? Obviously, if it can't go into the battery, you need to move this energy somewhere.
Oh, okay.
The brake pads turn that energy into heat. Heat is useful, especially when it's cold. So if you had some kind of resistive heating element that it could run the regen through.
So just waste the heat, but actually heat your car.
So it could put it into the cooling system, and maybe it could have two resistive heating elements, one on the outside of the heating system and one on the inside.
Why one on the outside?
So, the one on the inside is for when it's cold outside and the battery's too cold. When the battery is warm enough, or too warm or whatever, but your battery is full.
Oh, just waste the heat.
Just waste the heat and don't use the brakes.
Why don't we patent this and sell it to Tesla?
Sure,
for $1.
Sounds like a good idea. I think hey, good questions lead to interesting answers.
Yeah.
I think that could be a really great way, because then you could actually turn regen braking on faster because you'd be warming the battery with the heat.
I like it.
I like it a lot.
All right, and we got this other question from Adrian G. Pop. He says, do you think that adding a noisemaker to EVs is a positive move? Do you think that the lawmakers should educate rather than legislate? In my opinion, they will just be noise pollution rather than any significant benefit.
I agree. I don't think that adding noisemakers to EVs is going to create much of a positive impact. I mean, yes, you might save a couple people from getting hit by cars, but once you get over 18 miles an hour, a Model 3 is just about as loud as any other car on the road.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a second?
It's road noise.
Under, about 5-10 miles an hour, there may be very little noise because the tires aren't making much noise. But above about 8 to 10 miles an hour, you start to get tire noise, which, if you didn't know, is quite a bit of noise. Because today's cars are pretty quiet.
Yeah.
At those low speeds. In fact, I would argue that many of ICE cars don't make much sound either. So if you're going that slowly, luckily you're not going to hurt someone that much when you bump into them.
Right.
I would also argue, not that I'm against this, like anything that helps save people, that's great. But let's make a list of all the things in the world that hurt people, that kill people. Let's start at the top, the one that kills the most, and start there. Right. Because that'll make the biggest impact. So for instance, let's take one like texting. I don't know the exact numbers, but there's got to be thousands of people that get into accidents and die every year because they're texting while driving.
Right.
Pretty easy, I would think, to have it so that when you get your cell phone moving at a certain speed, because it has an accelerometer in it, that it shuts off. Or it shuts off the texting part and won't accept incoming calls or texts. That would be pretty easy to legislate. That way, when you get into a car, it just automatically won't text.
Right. But politically, that's hard to legislate, right?
So they're not going to do it.
The easier thing to legislate is to say, oh, we'll put noisemakers on EVs. Exactly. Not a lot of people drive EVs.
Right. And also, you're legislating away the responsibility. There's a driver and there's a pedestrian.
Exactly.
Both should be responsible.
Right.
Like, as a pedestrian, look around first before you walk out. And as a driver, look around first before you drive.
And this doesn't help people who put their earbuds in and are like, jamming out.
Exactly.
It doesn't help deaf people.
It gives you a false sense of security.
Exactly.
Because there's plenty of people in cities that have earbuds and headphones on. And so you're going to be like, well, they can hear me. Oh, I just bumped into someone.
I use the example when I removed the noisemaker from my Leaf, people are saying, oh, that's so irresponsible. What if you hit someone? If I hit someone, it's because I wanted to hit them. Okay? If I want to, I choose to be a good driver. Okay? I am very cautious when I am in places where people will, walk out in front of me, like a parking lot. Most people are not. Most people they put it in reverse and they start backing up and then they turn around. Right. You've already crushed whatever was behind you.
Exactly.
I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times in parking lots.
Yep.
When I back out, I first look behind me, then I put it into reverse, and then I start to reverse, and I'm always looking back.
Right.
Or I have a giant backup camera.
Exactly.
Usually I use both methods. People are not that responsible, and adding this layer of like, oh, it's a noisemaker, so no one will walk out in front of you is just false sense of security.
Totally true.
If I ever buy an EV that has a noisemaker, I'm ripping it out. I've already ripped out one.
I know.
Luckily, the Tesla I bought didn't have one.
Or you would have ripped it out.
I would have ripped it out.
All right, it's time for our Supercharger reviews. Remember, people can go out into the world, shoot Supercharger and Destination Charger reviews, put them on our website, and they go live immediately. And then some of them get put on the show. So here we go.
Please remember to film in landscape. It makes it so much easier to watch because all screens are this shape.
Yes.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. This is Mike. I'm at the Waterbury, Connecticut Supercharger. In a parking lot here with the Dunkin' Donuts, which is a great liquor store. Gets your booze. I give this place probably a 9, mostly because of Pepe's. Take care, guys. Like your show.
Hi, I'm at the Taichung Supercharger in Taiwan. It has 8 stalls. You see 3 Teslas charging. It's close to the highway. I'm not so familiar here, but still I want to show you. It's close to the new Opera building here in Taichung.
Hello, Zach and Jesse. Today we're going to be checking out the Suwon Supercharger, so let's take the train and get going. The Suwon Supercharger is located just south of the city of Seoul. So we're in the parking garage. It's down on level B2F of the cleanest parking garage I've ever seen in my life. There are 4 stalls and 2 destination chargers. Now the sign does say parking prohibited unless charging, but who would come to a supercharger and not charge? And there you have the escalator that leads up to the mall and the movie theaters. The mall itself is 4 stories, so there's a lot of things to do inside. And if you're looking to get out of the mall and get a more traditional Korea experience, just on the other side of the mall and the subway station is a market street. So you can go out and get some food, as I'm about to.
All right, I love it. Thank you for doing that. More of you need to go do that. All right, let's do our superchargers that are put online this week. What do we got?
We have the 8 stall in Shelby, Iowa.
The 6 stall in Chongqing, Shizhou, Tianyao Hotel, China.
Number 245 in China is the 10 stall at the Suzhou, Ufun, China.
The 8 stall in Dover, Delaware.
The 12 stall urban supercharger at Carmel Mountain, California.
And number 1438 in the world, number 602 in the U.S. is the 8 stall in Paulsboro, New Jersey. We did it, Jesse. I wanted to get to over 100 on Be Free. We're at 106.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Awesome.
We did it. This is amazing. Okay, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, call us up.
Exactly.
We're ready to report the story.
Let's just talk about this for a second. There are 100 businesses that are willing to have discounted rates on their products and services for Elon employees. So that's people that work for Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, Boring Company, all these different places.
And it all started with one doctor in Northridge, California, who wanted to help out, and he sent us the idea, and a few months later, we're up to over 100. Our buddy Jeffrey of Federation Computers is offering Elon employees the choice of a computer cleaning or 15% off any other service, and it includes like dusting out the hard drive and virus protection removal software, defragging the hard drive, all that stuff. So contact him. I'm just so happy to have this community of people that are willing to offer this. We have so many videos on our YouTube channel, over like 600 or something. And since we were talking this week about Harley's new motorcycle, we thought you should check out our Zero motorcycle, electric motorcycle review that we did, because that's a pretty cool motorcycle. So check that out if you're interested in motorcycles. It is now time, Jesse, for our Patreon giveaway.
Okay, here we go.
It's the Patreon giveaway.
So look what we're giving away this week, Jess. We are giving away a Model 3 parking-only poster. This is from our poster company. Remember that poster company that we have?
Yes.
Posterenvy.com?
Yes.
So we sell these on our website, and we thought, let's give one away. And you know what? Let's make it even better. Let's sign it.
Ooh, all right.
Huh? What do you think? A signed copy?
Absolutely.
So however much you give a month, we put that number of cards into the
Into the
Thing
bin
of-
with
bin of-
your name on it.
Yes.
So that's how it works.
All right.
This week's winner is Sean Sonnentag.
All right, Sean, you are going to get a Model 3 parking only signed by Zach and signed by
Jesse, here
Jesse.
we go.
Look at that.
Boom.
One of a kind.
One of a
Priceless.
kind. Here we go.
All right.
And it's sending off to you now.
All right, so people made it to the end. That was, oh my gosh, that was a long episode.
Absolutely.
Whew.
Yeah. There's a
pooped.
lot to talk about. There's always a lot to talk about
I know.
every week. Can't believe it.
I thought there'd be weeks where we just run out, you know?
You'd expect that, right? In like a normal news
Yeah.
scenario.
It'd be like a slow week.
Right.
We
I
haven't
don't
had a
think
slow
that's-
week in a long time.
That's really not happened
No,
in
fact,
a really long time.
There's just more and more things to do with electric and sustainable energy. Like
It's true.
every week. so
No, I
many
mean,
more
when we
companies.
started, it was just Tesla.
It was like,
That's when the slow
like
weeks
crickets.
were.
Yeah.
It was
because
just
if
like,
Tesla didn't have something, there wasn't any.
there
other
was
companies.
hardly anything. It was like, oh, we've heard that they're gonna make a new hybrid, and now it's like everything's gonna be hybrid, and we'll also have some EVs coming. It's
Wow.
like that's exciting. Thanks, Ford.
I know.
Thanks to make something.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing. For those of you who don't know, we have a Patreon, and for those of you who don't know what Patreon is, it's basically a way for you to support creators like us.
Yep.
We try and make this show as amazing as possible. We have editors, we have camera equipment, we've got lights all around us. We have a really nice camera that we were able to afford because our Patreons support us. And in return, we try to create as much value for our Patreons as possible.
Yep.
So we do our Patreon bonus stories every week. So that's like another 3, 4,
It's like another
5,
show.
6 stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we really pack it full of stuff and stuff that can't make it onto the show because the show is already super long. So there's bonus content. We're also going to be rolling out our Discord pretty soon, which will allow all of our Patreons, who we know from experience are all wonderful people, the ability to communicate with each other, something that we probably should have been working on before. But we're so excited for that because, wow, is that going to make some amazing opportunities. We're just so excited to be able to finally take this community full of amazing people stuffed up in different parts of the world and bring them all into one forum, one place where we can all communicate together
and share information.
So
ideas.
psyched about it.
So cool.
And you know, if you can't support us on Patreon, that's totally fine. We also have a Amazon affiliate link, so if you're buying things on Amazon anyway, a small portion of what you're paying normally to Amazon is going to actually go to us. So that's another way that you can support the show without having to actually, you know, lose any money. You're going to be buying things on Amazon
And how about
anyway.
this? If you're getting a Model X, Model S, or Model 3, use our referral code in Europe, the US, Canada. We will drive to your house in the next generation Roadster and give you a ride that'll probably be one of the top 10 of your life. Like you probably be
top 3
on your deathbed. You'll probably be laying there going, "Remember that time I was in the."
Yeah, I mean, we're going to try our darndest to get the SpaceX package.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're taking a car that already goes 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds.
Yeah.
And we're basically adding
We're gonna
cold
need-
rocket thrusters on the back.
We're gonna need medical forms, like medical. waivers.
I'm pretty dead serious
Yeah.
about that. I think that
Like
we might have to
neck
exclude
braces and-
people who have pacemakers. Like, I'm just a little worried. You're gonna have to sign a waiver. Like, if you die, it's not our fault.
Right.
What do we acceleration?
Like if anyone dies in the car,
That's going to be really sad. I don't want to even think about that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and watching all the way to the end. You know, we really appreciate your viewage. It's very important to the show. And, you know, if you watched all the way to this point, hit the like button.
and the subscribe button.
It somehow helps in YouTube's crazy
It does help.
algorithm.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Now you know.